Buying a house is one of the biggest financial investments, financial expenses that you'll have in your life. The top three financial expenses would be having a child, number one, and put a pet in there because pets are almost like a child, buying a house, and buying a car. So having a child, having a house, and having a car, those are your three biggest financial burdens throughout your life. Now, burdens can come with blessings long term, and but it's a big decision. Okay? Don't fear it. I don't want to produce fear because fear will keep you from long term return on investment. People who struggle with fear, which I've been there, you will put all your money in short term investments, which could be very volatile, lose more money than if you would have just overcome the fear of long term investment, which produces some pain. But with regards to buying a house, I want to talk to you about basic general information that would help guide you. Everyone has their own individual circumstance, and there's many variables, so take this with a grain of salt. But number one, how much do you need to buy a house, or how much house can you afford? Well, if you made $50,000 a year, you could afford no more, or you shouldn't push yourself no more than $200,000. So maybe you get a condo, maybe you live, away from the beach or something, But if you made 50 grand, $200,000 housing would be the max. And of course, that would depend if you had the proper debt to income ratio, you didn't have too much car. I saw someone the other day, they have a car payment of $1,100. So if you have a car payment of that, plus you got other debt or just that, you're going to struggle to qualify for a mortgage and be able to afford a house. You really need to make almost closer to $75,000 a year before you have the financial wherewithal to afford a house, because a house comes with liabilities. It comes with expenses. And that's why if you're making under 75, under 50 grand a year, you're probably better off renting. Short term, but even long term, if you're making under 50 grand a year, you don't have the financial wherewithal to make roof repairs, to, even if you live in a condo, to pay an assessment that comes when you live in a condo, to replace your air conditioner, which could be $10,000 or up when you live in a condo. So remember that, and a lot of people fought that. They go through cycles, like housing market goes through cycles. Like, after the pandemic, everyone wanted a house. And now, almost 4 years later, after the pandemic, no one wants a house. It's cheaper to rent again. So it all varies, right? And people go emotionally, but it's a long-term thing. But if you made 100 grand a year, no more than $400,000 a house. And that's why you see the average house right now in America is around 350 to 400 grand, because the average household probably has around 100 grand or so income if you combine two incomes. The average income probably around 50 grand. Okay, so, and that's why the average single person with very little debt, maybe they can afford a 200 grand condo. And whether you're a single person making 100 grand or a couple making 100 grand, then maybe you can afford a 350 to 400 grand mortgage. But I want to share with you, this is very important, listen, that's at your means. Meaning that if you made 50 grand, you buy a 200 grand condo, or if you made 100 grand, you buy a 400 grand house, that's at your means. Meaning if you lose your job, or if you have another emergency in your life, that could push you over the limit and you never get ahead. Living below your means that, if you made 50 grand, you wouldn't spend more than $125,000 for a condo, which would almost be impossible. So you probably try to rent and save. If you made 100 grand, you wouldn't spend more than 200 grand on a house so that you can live below your means and get ahead. And then when it comes to a second house, you wouldn't buy a second house unless it was an investment, and you're going to rent out the other one, which comes with its own burdens and expenses because you got to make capital improvements. It's tough, because life, which I've experienced and I've gone through, I'm not above it. Life is like being at a buffet. Okay, our eyes get bigger than our stomach. And house shopping is the same way. Our eyes get bigger than our financial wherewithal. And long term, if you're at or below your means, it can be very rewarding because you got to live somewhere eventually. So, but you got to have at least the initial basic level of income to support that house. And then, you got to be careful not to buy another house. And then you got to ask yourself, am I at, above, or below my means? So if you had a household bringing in 150 grand a year and you bought a $600,000 house, then you're above your means. Again, if you made 50 grand a year and you buy a $300,000 condo with high HOA, you're above your means. You may be able to qualify barely, but you may be above your means. Now, I will say this. I remember working with a guy. He drove a beat-up car. He put his money basically in the S&P index long term. He always worked. He was very shrewd with his money. He'd never backstab people. And he really set himself up great for a great retirement because he made long-term investments. He lived very simple, but one area he stretched himself was his house. And he even lost his house at one point and rebuilt it, and he had a rental and he still made out. But, he also went through some stress for that. So you pay for everything. But I remember him telling me, because obviously he had the data to prove that financially he figured things out to a certain degree, even though he paid for stress in certain areas. So everything you can't measure in data, but you shouldn't measure everything. But one thing that he said to me, he said, Sam, when it comes to a house in the right area with the right ability, you should stretch yourself a little bit. You should stretch yourself a little bit. Now, below your means, again, you have numbers and you're not going to buy, you're going to buy below what you can. Okay. And I like that for a buffer, meaning that if, you had a household that brought 100 grand, you bought a 200 grand condo, now you have a big buffer. If you need a new car, if you want to go on vacation, if you want to go out to eat, versus, if you bought a 400 grand house, you're at your means, but you may not be able to go on as many vacations. You may not be able to get a new car when you want. So everything has that measurable buffer. Okay. And below your means you have a bigger buffer. At your means, meaning you can afford it when everything goes well, as long as there's no major emergencies. Above your means if just one thing goes wrong in your life, you're screwed because you're taking too much risk. And risk is real. You don't realize it until you have to face the consequences of the risk. You realize that as you get older. So I wanted to share some of these numbers, some of these basic things. Again, everyone's individual. No one tells you all their stories. Some people may have money some other way, an inheritance, other ways. Some people funnel money. Some people low income but gamble money. Everyone, including me, spends their own money their own way. So this is not to pry in your business. This is to share general information. So you have general numbers and the general idea of above your means, at your means. What does that mean? Where should you stretch yourself? When you stretch yourself, how much stress does that cause, etc., etc. I hope this video helped in some way. Click the thumbs up. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next one.